I am frequently disappointed. I'm just going to try it before we even start. I'm just going to just curse us like that on this episode.
Toss this out and get me another one. Wow, is that good?
It's a monster, right?
It is. I was thinking, I wasn't
Just
thinking
ready to sit.
straight.
Just ready to sit. You were just talking about Tavola.
All right. Coming to you from the Beer to Whiskey Studios on the tap room floor of Greenville Beer Exchange, or GBX as the cool kids call it. We don't call it that. Well, we do call it that, but only because the cool kids call it that. Located on Lawrence Street in terrific downtown Greenville, South Carolina. I'm Russ Heaps, and welcome to this episode of Big John in 5. And we call it that because I get my good buddy here, Big John Richards, to pick a beer from one of GBX's 22 taps or hundreds of bottles and cans that are in the retail store up front. I'm pointing this way, but that's the front. We're in the back. We sniff, we sip, we kibitz. John tells us a little bit about the brewery. Sometimes he shares some brewing history with us, and he and I get to drink some beer and hopefully, fingers crossed, motivate you to drink a little beer with us. So, what do we
We
got?
have a pretty fun beer here, Russ.
I wouldn't know.
I'm gonna say I want to forego the jokes that I could have made here because Russ cursed us, cheated before we started the episode. Sat down and we're like ready to go, and he picks up his beer and takes a sip, and I was like, "You just gonna go ahead and do that? You're just gonna get started without me?"
That is a no. It's verboten.
Verboten.
It's verboten. I lost my head. I don't know what came over me. Something came over me, and I saw this pretty little dark.
It's the first real big dark beer we've done today.
Yes, and we've done some really good stuff today. This is like episode 7, maybe.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, give or take.
And there hasn't really been this. We did a sour that I wasn't crazy about, but there hasn't been a clunker in the bunch. Some of them have been exceptional.
That sour was delicious, by the way. So we are drinking a beer from Southern Grist.
Did
up
I
in
ask?
Nashville.
Did I ask you?
A minute ago, you did.
Oh, did I? I forgot.
That's what you get for drinking before we started.
Forgot.
I was surprised to find out that Southern Grist is a couple years older than Barrique. I thought Barrique was a little older than Southern Grist, but
Really?
Southern Grist is 2016. So
We did the sour we did was from a brewery called Brewing, which is also in
Nashville.
Nashville.
Yep. Hopefully they're friends.
I would think.
Here's hoping. But Southern Grist has been making some really good beer. We started getting them down here. I didn't know much about them, but they make some really, really good beers.
They do a lot of sours too.
And they got a bunch of different beers. I was looking at their website, doing my homework, and so they have 1,100 unique beers that they have brewed since they started.
Is that right?
Yeah, in 8 years, 1,100 different beers in 8 years.
I'm trying to think. I've been there several times. Just number one, because we always seem to get, when I go there with friends or whatever, we always seem to get an Airbnb that's pretty close to they've got 2 tap rooms in Nashville. One of them is on what they call this side of the river, the north side, and the other's on the other. But anyway, this particular one I've been to 4, 5, 6 times, and I don't even remember what I was going to say.
Just talking about Southern Grist and how many different beers they have.
Oh yeah, they have a lot. No, what I was going to say is It seems to me that they've got about 30 taps in there with their stuff. At any time you go in there and they have about 30 things on of their own stuff on tap, which is that's pretty impressive.
Indeed. I like that you intimated that the people in Nashville think of it as this side of the river and that side of the river.
Well, it is the river. There's some kind of a river thing there. And I can't remember whether it's east side, west side, or north side, and south side, or far side, and close side.
I'm now going to I'm going to Nashville in a couple of days, and I'm going to ask if we're on this side of the river or that side of the river when I get there.
When you drive in, once you've hit the river, now you're going on that side of the river. You've already been on this side of the river.
Right.
But the one that I have been to a bunch of times is on this side of the river. And which I'm guessing maybe the east side. Maybe it's east and west. But and I will only mention that I'm going to share this with you, and then we're going to move along, and it's going to be a 15-minute thing.
We're going long.
We're going long. Right across the street from Southern Grist, right across this, whatever the main road is one of those shops that sell vintage clothes. It's a vintage, but they've got a full bar.
Huh.
They've got a full bar. It's very cool. You go in, you get your drink or your beer or whatever, and you walk around and look at the stuff. They've got all kinds of things in there. It's really a fun spot. I've been in there a couple of times too.
Right.
So having sort of gone off the rails a little bit here, John, back to you. I throw it back to you.
Just telling the story of the vintage clothing store? Were you just telling the story of the vintage clothing store?
There's a vintage clothing store there, and now I'm throwing it back to you.
Very cool stuff. I'm actually excited to visit because I'm almost certain we're going to Southern Grist, and if we do, I will 100% go across the street and check out the vintage clothing store.
But you have to go to the one on this side of the river.
This side of the river, right?
On the side of the river closest to us,
right?
Which would be the east side.
This side.
But they might call it something else. It may be the north side, south side. I don't know, but it's two sides of the river.
I don't know where we're going to be. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
So we're drinking one of their delicious beers. Jump on in, Russ.
I did it again.
This is called Altered Stout, which I think must be a play on Altered State, but it's they actually aged this for Russ. This stout gets aged for 26 months in Old Fitz barrels. And this is a teaser. We're about to do an Old Fitz segment in a minute.
Old Fitzgerald, 19-year bottled in bond.
Wow. Woohoo! So
look for that.
26 months in Old Fitz barrels, and then conditioned on hazelnuts, cocoa nibs, and vanilla. And it creates, this thing is a dessert, man. We can barely pour it through the taps. It's so thick. And it is a dessert in a glass.
I wouldn't know.
I know.
I've only had about 4 sips out of my glass accidentally.
Sometimes I have an advantage because I've had the beer before, like
now
on other days. This is the one where Russ gets to taste it before I do.
Oh, really? You haven't tasted it?
I actually have. I have tasted it on the draft wall. All I did was pour
he is so full of
a
crap.
drop out of it so that I have to. I have a choice.
Ow!
How else am I going to sell it?
True. I'll grant you that.
But I have not had. I have had a drop, basically, of this. I have not sat down and even taken, I think, a full swallow yet.
It's
so I'm very excited for this. It's not something that I think I would want in more than 5 ounces, but here we are.
Me neither. Text Miss Lily.
Come on. So much fucking chocolate on the nose of
man.
that.
You said the F-bomb. Stop dropping the F-bomb.
I can't.
You did that when we got all liquored up the last time we shot.
Do it again.
The last episode, it was like F-bomb,
really,
F-bomb, F-bomb.
I'm really on top of my game when we start, but after a while, I loosen up and start talking like I normally talk. And I've been saying for years, I swear like a sailor. I'm a Marine, so I'm allowed to swear like a sailor, unless I'm on a construction site, and then I swear like a sailor on a construction site.
Oh man, the last time never mind. But it was, and then I have to edit all that out. I don't edit it out. I just have to get the air horn out and blare it and do some other things.
Right.
But
You don't have to.
it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. A lot of extra work for me.
I believe in creating work. I'm a capitalist.
Well, the Lord has blessed me with work. So
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
that was a great line from
I don't know.
Return to Me, the movie Return to
Oh,
Me.
is that right?
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah. Carol O'Connor's character said that to the I forget who the female. I can't remember her name. I love her.
yeah.
English. But anyway,
I don't
that's
remember.
neither.
I don't remember.
That's neither here nor
I
there.
wish I remembered.
It will come to me at some point, maybe while we're still in this segment, and I'll blurt it out.
I don't think I've actually ever seen that movie.
You should.
It's one it's been on my list for a
it's
while.
little-
I
it's
know
a
it's
little-
something I'm supposed to see.
It's a little sappy and it's romantic, but it's also a lot of fun.
Yeah,
It's a fun movie.
I'm okay with that. This beer is so
Minnie Driver.
freaking thick. Oh, nice.
Minnie Driver, who I have a crush on.
That beer is so coating and so thick. I feel like I'm going to have to go get a plain soda water. I feel like I need to cut it with something almost.
It's
That
like a
beer is
blanket for
so
your
rich.
tongue.
Yeah.
It's a blanket for your tongue.
So yeah,
A little,
a little soft teddy bear blanket.
yeah.
Right. It's like blue with pastel blue.
Geez, look at the time. I don't know what all I'm tasting in here.
Uh,
I've said this about half the beers we've had today, but I'm getting some caramel or something.
I think you're confusing vanilla and caramel today.
I could be, or my palate is.
Right.
My palate is not very sophisticated, and so that could be the issue.
I don't think that's true. But it's you're tasting what you're tasting, no matter what it is. There's no way there's not a little bit of caramel in this, but there's a big vanilla presence. The biggest presence is this monstrous amount of just hot cocoa, chocolate, rich, thick. It's like drinking chocolate.
He's not wrong.
And then there's hazelnut, and we just talked about it at the beginning. It's hazelnut, chocolate, vanilla, and that's why I'm naming all these things. Otherwise, I would say it tastes nutty. But this, I don't think this tastes like hazelnut coffee, like hazelnut, in the way that I think of pouring hazelnut syrup into something. This tastes nutty, and there's a vanilla syrupy thing that's happening in the middle, and it's all playing around this big cocoa, just rich chocolate backbone. Talked about this before. Starbucks used to have this drink. I don't know how long ago. Other people do this, but Starbucks did it for a while, and it landed me firmly in their camp as a beverage consumer. And they made a drinking chocolate, and I don't remember what they called it. I think it was an Italian word. It's an Italian thing, but
Chocolate. Chocolata.
It sounds more like German.
Choc
But it's a good effort.
Chocolata. How's that?
So this drinking chocolate thing was just this super, super thick. You almost couldn't pull it through the little hole in the top of the lid, It was that thick. And this thing is that thick with that kind of chocolate consistency. It's just a monster.
Yes.
And it's delicious, but it's dessert.
If you really stick your nose into that, it is like Hershey's cocoa.
Drinking chocolate.
It's like Hershey's cocoa.
It is bonkers how much of that is in there. And I'm actually taking too big of a sip. This thing should be I'm 2 sips in and I'm halfway through my glass, and that's too much. I'm taking them
But
too much at a time. It's
it
so
begs. Bloody good.
it begs to do it though. I don't know how. Like I ought to be sipping this in much smaller sips and it wouldn't be quite so overwhelming, but it just begs you to drink it.
What's the ABV on this?
10.1? 10 point something. I think it's 10.1.
That's high. That's up there.
Up there.
That's up there. But in sippiness, I would think it would be higher.
Yeah, because you're right. You drink this and you think, wow, this thing's got to be a monster. It's got to be 18 or 20%, and it's just got that much in the way of ingredients in there. There's so much. There's so much going on in there.
Damn.
And it's
good.
It's far from a one note beer. We've had some other beers where you're like, this is a busy beer. There's a lot going on in there. There's not a lot going on in this beer. It's hitting you with 2 or 3 big hammer flavors.
Yeah.
And it's a monster of a beer. It's not subtle.
But
not subtle.
But I'm perfectly content.
Yeah.
With the flavors that I'm pulling out of this.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be multi-layered or multifaceted.
Right.
You're right. It's 2 or 3 things that hit you right between the eyes.
Yep.
Stomach punch you, like I like to say. But it's wonderful. Anything else? Did we talk about
we talked about Southern Grist. I didn't talk a whole lot about them. You know more about them than I do because you've been to their brewery and I have not. I guess they've got a couple tasting rooms.
I've been
in
to the
Nashville.
one on this side of the river.
Yeah, there's maybe I'll visit the one on that side of the river.
They do have 2 tap rooms,
right?
And I don't know that they have 2 breweries.
No, apparently I read this on their site too. They still brew everything in their original 15-barrel brew house.
Right.
That's not a big brew house.
And I think that's the one on this side of the river. I think.
Right. No, might be. Well, they did say East Nashville, so that's
would make
sense.
That's it.
That would make sense.
That is it. East Nashville.
Yeah.
I just couldn't come up with it. East Nashville.
This side of the river.
This side of the river. And then look for the vintage store that has a full bar.
Can't wait.
Because that's
going to do it.
That's fun too.
Going to find a way.
Anything else?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's get on the road.
So damn lucky. See you next time.